it here. All right, so Skully, I got about 20 questions. Like I said before, I think these are all pretty decent questions. We're gonna turn this music off. Let's do that. There we go. That's a lot better. Okay, so yeah, I want to get started. My first question I have for you today, Scully, is what bands inspired you and your other band members to create Seasons of the Wolf?
Well, when we started, the keyboard player Dennis and I pretty much started Seasons of the Wolf, and we had just come out of a band called Equinox, and we both are really into Blue Oyster Cult.
Uh-huh.
Uh, and Deep Purple, Black Sabbath, Iron Maiden, Judas Priest, and stuff like that. And so when we started the band, him and I basically just worked up a bunch of instrumentals that almost sounded a bit more like movie soundtrack type stuff with guitar and keyboards. And we'd just program beats and play to that.
Mm.
That's how the band started, but in the meantime, we were working on putting together, the full band with a drummer, bass player, and a singer.
You said you were formed, I believe it was in 1996. Am I right on that?
Well, the band formed in 1988.
88, okay.
October. That's when we actually started, like, in the summertime, just the two of us working on the instrumental. And then after that, we finally started finding people, and my brother graduated high school, and he joined the band as the singer. And by October 1988, we had a full lineup.
Nice. So, the position you do in the band, I've been a little confused. I've seen you do guitar, drums. I've seen you do it all. Would that be like the position you do? You just kind of do everything, or are you like set to like drumming, guitaring?
Well, I actually played drums in another band called Twisted World, but that didn't happen till many years later.
Okay.
My first instrument was drums when I was 12 years old, and my parents thought that was too loud, so they bought me a little guitar amp and a guitar, and then I invited a drummer over and started a band, so we ended up in the basement practicing. And I just kind of learned how to do everything because I never could find people to work with for long durations of time. And so after playing guitar for a long time, I'd go back to playing some drums and practicing that and playing bass. And we never could find a singer back then in my teenage years, so I just started singing too. So, and writing songs right off the bat. I'd practice to other people's stuff, but I always liked doing my own thing. So I already started writing songs. By the time I was 14, I had my first band.
Nice. So, next question I have for you is, how long do you plan to keep creating music with Seasons of the Wolf?
Until I'm dead.
That's an amazing answer. I love it.
That's pretty blunt, but yeah, I've been asked that question by musicians that I've jammed with before. They ask, so how long are you going to give this? And my answer is always like, what kind of question is that? I love doing it. I'm going to give it until I'm dead.
Yeah.
No matter what happens at the end of the day, you just keep going. If you really like something, if you really just enjoy doing it. So no matter what level of success that you get from it, the first level of success is actually enjoying doing it.
Yeah, you seem very passionate about Seasons of the Wolf. You seem passionate about the whole music thing in general, and I love that because I was actually talking to the band I interviewed yesterday, and there are just artists out there. I can't really particularly like put my finger down on any of them, but there's just some people who just hop into the studio, release their music, and just walk out, and just like they aim towards like a job, and they don't really have like a passion towards it as much anymore. So it's awesome that you're still passionate about it, and that you said you're going to continue to do music till the day you drop.
That kind of thing actually comes from these days, from what I've found, is of the older school. Rock and roll isn't all that old. We're talking, 1957 is when it first came out.
Yeah.
And it just got heavier and heavier, and then hard rock and acid rock. I mean, I was already playing hard rock, and there was no such thing called heavy metal.
Yeah.
But the thing of it is, back then, the difference was the vibe of being a musician and developing that skill and putting together a band. We didn't have the internet, and we didn't have all this other stuff in, overpopulated, oversaturated, and when you were a musician playing in a band, it was like you really were able to get the attention of people real easy by even just being mysterious. All you had to do is get together a jam session and let a few people know in high school or whatever, and you had a massive party, that's being busted up by the police. And there was just a lot more excitement in being a musician back then because you could actually carve it all out. I mean, everything that's going on today with music has pretty much been going on for the last 60 years to one extreme or the other. It's all just drums, bass, guitar, vocals, or beating on something and jumping around and rapping and jazz music or whatever. But back then, the vibe was that you really got to feel almost like you were a doctor or a lawyer. Being a musician actually carried a lot of respect with it, These days, when you say, oh, I'm a musician, I play in a band, people just roll their eyes like, yeah, and so does the other guy next door, and that guy, everybody I run into, is a musician. It doesn't carry the same weight as it used to. That plus CDs and the money that you are able to get from being a musician is even harder than ever now. So that is why a lot of musicians out there, young musicians and even the older ones, have become tainted and jaded. They just don't have the drive and the passion for it.
Yeah.
If they can't achieve anything as easy as they think they should, that takes away the passion. Me, I've experienced that, though. I've gone on stage and played in front of a crowd when the audience is singing your chorus lines to your songs, and we've gotten paid in the past and made some good money, and we know, so that type of passion for myself hasn't faded. I know what can be.
Yeah. That kind of ties into a little bit of like my next question, in a way, not too much, but the next question I got for you is, how do you feel about internet radios versus streaming platforms such as Spotify, YouTube, and etc.?
I love it all. I think it's great that so much music is able to get out there to so many more people by so many different methods. The only problem of it is the money end of things hasn't caught up to that yet. They don't have a way to filter that and get the musicians paid. And the thing of it is, on top of that, too, CD sales are kind of out the door.
Yeah.
It's still important to make CDs, to have them available to sell at your shows. And some radio stations, the old brick-and-mortar type radio stations, still like to collect those CDs and keep them in their library. So it is still important to have CDs. But bands aren't making any money on selling CDs anymore. Not that much. It's more just a promotional tool now to have it. The only time you're going to make any money from merchandise is if you're out doing a live show, especially when it comes to CDs. The best thing to do is, just stay together, write good songs, become skilled at what you're doing, keep putting it out into the world, and promote the hell out of it, and people will come along that like it, and those are the ones that basically is your promotion team. The fans these days are the promoters.
Yeah.
The more somebody's into your stuff, the more they will share it on Facebook and all these outlets, and the more radio stations that play it, the more DJs are going to hear it, and they're going to want to play it too. And you can't never give up. You got to keep pushing it. You can't, say, oh, well, we got this done and we got that done and that's great. Get excited about it. But then you shut down and you don't do anything for a while. Well, you can't. Not these days. You have to stay on it every day. Every day you have to set aside some time to promote your band. You're not going to get a major record deal with Warner Brothers. You're just not.
Yeah.
It still happens now and then, but that's only if you show that you've already built a big audience and sold a lot of merchandise. Then you might get offered a record deal. See, it didn't used to be that way. You used to get a record deal just because you were writing good songs and you were talented, and they would put you in the studio and assign you a producer, and they would help develop your band and develop your product over time. Basically called artist development. That doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah, I mean,
record labels now, any of the major record labels that are left, they want to cherry pick. Basically, they want to find an artist that's already out there getting all the work done on their own and then cherry pick you.
Yeah. So the next question I have for you is, we know Hopes and Fears is coming out pretty soon, August 4th. Do you guys have any new songs that you're currently working on other than Hopes and Fears?
Actually, right now, we have an entire full album worth of material already written that we haven't started working on recording and putting together yet. We just finished up recording a full album, and the singles that we're releasing right now are from that full album that we're getting ready to release. Because things are so different now, that's one of the reasons. We had never done that before in the past. We would just record an album and put it out, and we would pick out a couple of songs to market to radio, and people were more interested in buying the full albums. We actually used to make a little money selling albums before that stopped happening. Things have turned around now back to where people aren't interested in a full album being laid on them all at once. It's back to the days of releasing singles, and promoting one song at a time as a single for a couple of months and then turning around and releasing one more. So this time around, we decided, well, we recorded 12 songs for the album. We've already got it done. We've already started working on the artwork and the packaging and everything, and it's pretty much ready to go. So it's just sitting there waiting. So over the past, since last year and into this year, we've just been releasing one single at a time. We figured we'd release about 4, maybe 5 singles, and then that builds up the demand through those singles, and then we release the full album, which right now we're planning on releasing the full album in January of next year, which isn't that far around the corner. So we're only talking about 5 or 6 months.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I thought...
And those singles that we've been releasing obviously will be on that album. It's like the old days coming out of the 60s or early 70s when you'd go buy a vinyl album at Kmart and there would be a little sticker on it that says, contains the hit singles.
Yeah. Oh, man.
You don't remember those days, do you?
I've actually... Do I remember them particularly? No, but I have been told about that from my brothers, because they're older than me.
Right.
Yeah, I mean... Yeah, it's crazy. But
and back then you didn't have anything telling you. You didn't have an advertisement on TV or the internet or anywhere that was telling you all the new albums were out. Radio back then was mostly just what they decided to play on the radio with commercials and stuff as usual. But you didn't hear somebody come on there and give you a whole list of all the new cool stuff that was out. The way that you found out about that back in those days was you carried your butt down to the local record store and start checking out all the cool-ass album covers and flipping through it and seeing all these cool band names and looking at the photos in the back to make sure that they don't look like a bunch of morons and they look cool. And if they look cool and that cover art was really cool and you check out the titles of the songs and they sound really cool, you snag the album and you take it home and you put it on the turntable and it either sucks or it doesn't.
Yeah. Yeah, nowadays, I mean, it's a lot easier to figure out if music is good or not, because you just click on a video or a stream of a song and you listen to a couple minutes, you're like, okay, this sucks, and like you don't have to spend money. But back then, yeah, I mean, I could definitely imagine things being a lot more different, because
the key to it was back then too, and I'm actually referencing Alice Cooper from an interview he did that I agree with, and they asked him kind of like the question about the mystery thing. And Alice Cooper even said, the mystery is what is missing from the business these days. There's too much information, too much of this, too much of that. Back then, mystery is what sold a band. Going into the album shop and looking at a cool artwork and seeing cool titles of the songs and seeing a bunch of crazy guys dressed up, doing whatever on the album, that is why you bought the album. You didn't know anything about those people. And there wasn't all the YouTube videos and all this other stuff either. All you did was listen to the music.
yeah.
You didn't have to be impressed by the way people were dressed in a video or anything, because you really didn't get to see that, except for maybe if one of those bands was on Don Kirshner's rock concert or the Midnight Special.
Yeah. Alrighty, so where are we here? Okay. The next question I have for you is, what were some of your favorite bands that you and Seasons of the Wolf got to go on stage with?
Well, we got to open up for Blue Oyster Cult, which I think I said earlier. That was one of the keyboard player, Dennis Risto, and he's alias Dr. Samurai. But we just were always into Blue Oyster Cult. I say between him and I, that's probably one of our top favorites. I've got about a top 20 favorites that I've always listened to, but Blue Oyster Cult has always been on the top of the list just because of the material they write, the fact that they have keyboards in the band, but the guitars are still heavy. They got good vocals, good chorus lines, but it's all kind of still mysterious. And that basically was a really cool thing when we, many years later, got to open up for them. And we also, our first live show was actually playing at a civic center. We didn't go and play local bars or any of that stuff. We just jammed at our warehouse, and we would have open houses because we had a pretty nice stage built in our place, and we could fit about 100 people in. So every weekend, we'd practice all week, and then on Friday and Saturday nights, we'd open it up to the public, and we'd have parties until 3 o'clock in the morning, and we developed a following in our local area that way. And some local promoter got wind of us. One of our fans that came out every weekend actually turned him on to us and brought him out to our warehouse stage where we were, having an open house. And he's like, wow, okay. Well, how would you guys like to play at the Manatee Civic Center and open up for Blood, Sweat, and Tears? And I'm like, okay. So our first show was playing at Manatee Civic Center.
That is amazing.
Which was good for us, and we got to open up. You probably haven't even heard of Blood, Sweat, and Tears. They're not really a metal band. I'd say they couldn't even really be labeled as a hard rock band, but they are a rock and roll, pop rock and roll band, and they were very popular in the 70s. And of course, in 1990, we got to open up for them at our first ever show. And we played with a few other people, too. I just can't remember them all. For all the shows we've done and little metal festivals and stuff, somewhere, I think, on Facebook, I have a list of all the bands that we ever played with.
Yeah. I mean, that's still crazy, though. You got into, like, a legitimate stadium or whatever to go on and play. Especially for your first show. Like, that is...
Yeah, we never had to play anywhere else. Like I say, it all came from having open house nights. We didn't just practice in a tiny little garage or a warehouse. I mean, back then we actually, Dennis and I found this place and we built a stage that's a professional-sized stage in it. It's kind of like in a junky, worn-down area of the town that's an industrial-type area. So there's no noise ordinance here either. And we're still here at the same place. Over the years, we've built it up into a rehearsal studio. I have other bands that come here and practice, and I help them put together promo packages. And we built a recording studio into it and everything else. But back when we started, it used to be just open house nights, and then every weekend, more and more people would come out and party all night long till 3 o'clock in the morning, jamming to our Seasons of the Wolf right here. People were rolled up in a piece of carpet like a taco, passed out drunk, at the end of the night.
Oh, that's amazing.
I used to collect keys off of people and stash them in the office because I wouldn't let them drive home drunk. I'd wait and let them lay around for a while and sober up.
I respect that a lot.
But we had a lot of fun back then. It's called Dirty Street. The street we're on used to be nicknamed Dirty Street, and a few people still remember that because it used to be just a dead-end dirt road with a bunch of warehouses on both sides. But this little street here actually is quite popular because the death metal band, or technical death metal band, I would guess I'd say, Atheist. I don't know whether you've ever heard of them.
I have not.
But they got signed and they had a record deal. They practiced right down the road from us. Another prog rock, heavy metal type band practiced across from us was Crimson Glory. And then we had another band called Still Angel, and then there was Seasons of the Wolf. And this was all going on between 1988 and 1992. All four of these bands that were actually recording stuff and putting them out all on one dirt road street. So the weekends here, this street was packed with people partying and going around to visit all the bands. And it's just a piece of our history that's pretty cool because it was like a little mini sunset, a poor man's Sunset Strip.
Yeah, that sounds pretty cool. Not gonna lie. And I also respect you a lot for stashing the keys and making sure people don't drive home drunk. That is something I definitely respect.
Yeah, it was a bit of a pain in the ass. I mean, stepping over people at the end of the night, We got carpet in the studio on the floor that we cut in pieces, so it's not like one full piece across the whole studio. And I've always done that so that I could replace one piece when it got dirty and then whatever. Hell, I've replaced the carpet here probably 10 or 12 times over the years. But, yeah, people would pass out drunk, and then they'd roll over and they'd grab a corner of carpet and they'd roll themselves up in it and look like a taco laying on the floor.
Oh, man. All right.
Blood, sweat, and tears. We've seen it all here, man. Debauchery.
Alrighty, so the next question I have for you here is, how did you discover Castle Blakk Radio?
What's that?
The next question I have is, how did you discover Castle Blakk Radio?
Oh, let me see. Well, I'd already heard of it around 2017, 2018. But in 2018, we released the Last Act at Defiance album. And of course, we got two record labels over in Germany that handled that, Iron Shield Records and Pure Steel Records. Mm-hmm. And I do a lot of radio promotions on my own and have leftover lists from the day that, there's still people on our radio marketing list that goes back 20, 30 years. A lot of, some come and they go. They come and they go, but there's still some hanging on from the old school days. And, well, we hadn't released an album in like 6 or 7 years. It took us to get that album out just because of a lot of crap we were going through. Mm-hmm. But anyway, in 2018, Last Act of Defiance album, our German labels were actually helping doing some of the radio marketing. And I went in and did a search one day, and all of a sudden it came up that one of our songs was getting played on Castle Blakk Radio. And of course, any stations that's playing us, I always take their logo and I'll put our album cover in there, and I'll do thank you to this station, and I'll slap that up on Facebook and tag them. That is how I first discovered Castle Blakk Radio.
Nice.
And then shortly after that is when, I always look up who owns it or who runs it, and that's how I came across Metal Mom. And I remember getting her email address and going ahead and sending her up some more stuff.
Yeah.
Some of our back catalog. So a few of those tracks were getting played. So, basically, it's all got to do with research. If you're in a band and you've got some stuff out there and you released it, you've officially released it, a few weeks into it, if you do some radio marketing and you do a little research online, there's actually a couple radio tracking services out there. And, your band will, if you're getting played, it'll actually show up on some of those tracking services. It'll tell you what time it was played, who played it, and how many people were listening, approximately. And the thing of it is, what's great about that is if you go down and on these tracking services, they always have the radio station listed, and you can go down and click on that, and then it brings up contact numbers. So it's just a good way, if you're promoting your band and you don't have the money to hire a radio marketing agency, is to do it yourself, man. Is just spend a little time and do some research and put yourself together a list of 20 or 30 radio stations that like your kind of music and play your kind of music, and just send it to them.
Yeah.
Now, all 30 of them that you send to aren't going to play it, but 5 or 6 of them will. And that gets it started, because those 5 or 6 turn into 10. And then those 10 turn into 20. And the first thing you know, you've got a list of 325 stations that are playing your stuff. Brick and mortar stations, internet stations, satellite stations, whatever. To me, it's just all radio. These days, you can't break it down anymore. Internet radio obviously is becoming way popular, and that's where we're heading in the future, is more things like Castle Blakk Radio. This is what's happening, and this is what's going to happen. More and more of the brick and mortar type stations are going to shut down, because they're owned by corporate entities that basically only play what major label artists pay them to play.
Yeah.
And that's why you're hearing the same 50 or 60 damn songs all over again. I don't know about you, but I like the Eagles, but I don't want to take it easy anymore. I've had enough of taking it easy.
Yeah.
I've had enough of Hotel California. I've had enough of Bon Jovi. I love AC/DC, but damn it, man. There's a lot of bands that haven't been getting heard that are really good or better. And you can hear a lot of that right here on Castle Blakk Radio.
Yeah, and that's the thing I love about Castle Blakk is the free range of playlists. Like you said, the major corporations and stuff, they get paid by the big labels, and it's just the same stuff over and over. And that's what I like. I like variety. I like if you tune into my show, you might hear, I don't know, I'm just gonna say Deftones, right? But then if you tune into Jay's show, you might hear Parkway Drive. Like, I like how
you're definitely going to hear some Dio. On Jay's show, you're definitely going to hear some Dio, and I love that about him, man. He's definitely a progressive rock and metal kind of guy, and that's right up our alley. That's why he played a lot of Seasons of the Wolf on his show, But me, I like just about everything. I like some of the industrial metal, and I like thrash metal. I like Elvis Presley. I like, there's a lot of stuff I like, going all the way back to the 50s. But, it's the one thing I've found that's cool about Castle Blakk Radio and all the DJs that are so friendly and freaky sometimes and have fun is they don't get stuck in playing just one type of thing. Even if they love just death metal, okay, still they have an awareness that there's other people listening, and they'll slap in some Buddy Holly, or all of a sudden, or you might hear, whatever. It just seems like you guys are all over the place playing a little bit of everything. Anything that has to do with rock and roll, hard rock, and heavy metal.
Yeah, I mean, for my shows, I typically try to program them to be just unique. Like I don't like just sticking into one genre. I like to just play let's just say heavy metal, then we'll go hard rock, then we'll go soft rock. Like I like to play all different types of stuff because I know there's people out there listening to that have certain favorite genres and whatnot, and if I'm playing something that's not theirs, they're more than likely not going to tune into my shows no longer. That also goes for
other
right.
It's
well.
Good to diversify.
Yeah, definitely.
It's good to be diversified because you might have some listeners out there that are like, if you're playing nothing but death metal, that's a little bit too harsh for some people.
Yeah.
And it's cool to play death metal and black metal and whatever pink metal and whatever else there is out there. But even the shows that we used to do live, I would never, when I used to promote shows of our own and I'd go find bands to actually go out and do shows with us, I would not make it the same type of band, even doing a live show. Yes, they were all rock bands, but I would have a female-fronted rock band that played a little bit more poppy rock, and then I'd have another band that played like some maybe hardcore punk, and then it would be Seasons of the Wolf, progressive metal. And if they're all good, and they all have good songs, and they do a good performance, just about everybody, I'd say 98% of the audience is going to like the entire show. And they're not going to get the same sound blasted in their face all night long by 5 or 6 different bands. That's about my only complaint these days as far as live shows go and festivals, especially around my area in Tampa Bay. It's just every show is like a death metal show, and you get 8 or 9, 10 death metal bands, and you're just bludgeoned to death all through the show. The same thing over and over again. You almost can't even tell it's a different band. It just sounds like just looks like different guys up on stage playing the same stuff. Yeah. Growling in your face on everything. And I'm okay with that, but not every band. Diversify the shows a little bit. And that's one thing that's a problem that seems to be happening in the live entertainment business. They're just clustering up so many bands that are playing the same type of sound. They're not diversifying enough. But then they're sitting there wondering and complaining about they can't fill their shows up and there's not enough people coming to their shows and they can't pay the bands well. Well, guess what? If you start taking a hard look at what you're booking, the type of shows you're booking, and maybe diversify it a little bit, maybe more people, the word gets out and more people will start coming to your shows because it's not the same damn thing all night.
Yeah. No, yeah, I agree. I completely agree with that. Alrighty. So, my next question I have for you is, of all your music that Seasons of the Wolf has created, which song would you say is your personal favorite?
Oh, I can't narrow that down. I like them all. I mean, anything that ends up recorded and put out, I obviously like it. And the other guys, and we've all agreed, okay, yes, that's what's going on the album. And they all have a special meaning. It's like a new baby, Every song we write, we record it, and we produce it from the ground up, and we treat it like a child, and before we move on to the next song, and then take care of that one. We actually put a certain amount of time onto all the songs that we want to put on an album. And I could narrow it down to my favorite sounding all around, material-wise, production, mastering, mixing, and the whole thing that went into it. So far, my favorite 2 Seasons of the Wolf albums are the one we put out in 2007 called Once in a Blue Moon, and then the next one we put out in 2018 after a long time called Last Act of Defiance. Mm-hmm. But just like every artist out there, I will tell you that I'm really excited about our next album. Because we have the new singer, Robert Baxter, and he replaced my brother, and it took us a long time to find a guy. We auditioned probably a couple of dozen really good singers, but nobody had the character and the delivery that I was looking for to replace my brother's voice. And Robert certainly has that bizarre character that my brother had, and he knows how to deliver the goods. So once we got that all, and we've recorded these songs, and the way that we're recording it and getting ready to release it all, I'm very excited about our new album coming out.
Yeah. I mean, I'm excited to hear it as well. I mean, I heard Hopes and Fears. I love this song, man. I'm not even just saying that to say that. Like, I actually love this song. I've listened to it a lot off air since you sent it to me. It's amazing work, man.
My personal favorite, though, I have to narrow it down, I'd say is Once in a Blue Moon. For some reason, I can actually sit down and enjoy listening to my own album all the way through, all the songs, and they're so cohesive, yet so dynamically perfect, and the way we arranged all the songs, and the guy that we hired to do the mastering, the final mastering on it, it's just, if anybody was to ask me personally, okay, I like your band, but what do you want me to listen to first? I'd say listen to Once in a Blue Moon first, then go research the archive. If you like Once in a Blue Moon, then you'll get what the band's all about, and when you go back and you hear some of those first recordings, you'll be able to laugh a little bit and go, wow, those guys were really weird back then.
Yeah, that's awesome. Alrighty, so the next question I have, I feel like it ties into one of my previous questions a little bit. What was the favorite concert that you have done?
Okay, ask me something about a concert. What's that?
Yeah, what was the favorite concert that you guys have done?
The favorite concert. Oh, favorite show. I never forget a show. I mean, we've done probably about, I don't know, I lost count, around 300.
Wow, that's a lot.
But I always remember, I even remember the date. Like, okay, when we opened up for Blue Oyster Cult, we got the opportunity to do that, and we did it. And it was just awesome, because I'd always been a big Blue Oyster Cult fan, so was Dennis. And we had already gone to several of their shows years before that, you know, going way back. And all of a sudden, boom, we get to open for them. Mm-hmm. So I would say that show, August 22nd, it was on a Wednesday in July. It was August 22nd. I think it was August. Anyway, but it's like I remember that time period, and I remember the year we did it. And yes, that was definitely a very thrilling show for us, is to open for Blue Oyster Cult. There was another one we did at Mardi Gras Festival where there was a buttload of people there, so that always makes things more fun. The Manatee Civic Center, our first show we ever did publicly, that was a buttload of fun, because all of our fans and all these people that came out to the open houses and stuff we'd have at our warehouse were all there. Mm-hmm. We were nobody. This was our first live show playing out, even in our local area at the Manatee Civic Center. And the promoters and people at the show, all of a sudden all these people show up for us, wearing T-shirts of ours already, and it's right down front screaming and hollering, and the promoters are going, who the fuck are these guys? Where did they come from? And we had a guy that was kind of managing the band at that time for a short period of time, and he's the one that got us the gig. And he was just telling them, they live right down the road. All these people come to they've got a stage, and they play on every weekend in their warehouse. That's why I had them here, because I knew they'd bring people in. And all the promoters were all freaked out about it. Yeah. We even got to do an encore at that show, opening up for Blood, Sweat, and Tears. And the thing of it is, the encore we played was about 10 minutes long, and we ended up pissing off Blood, Sweat, and Tears. We didn't mean to do it, but I mean, the people wanted us to play an encore, so we did. And Blood, Sweat, and Tears got pissed off because they couldn't go on at the exact time that they were supposed to go on. So they kind of raised a stink about it. But it was too late to do anything about it. We had already played and satisfied our customers, so.
Yeah, that's great. Oh, man. Alrighty. Next question. Keeping it related to concerts a little bit here. Do you have any plans to do any tours or concerts anytime soon?
Well, our main focus right now, after we put out this next single, I'm working on a lyric video for that single that will probably, for Hopes and Fears, that will probably release in about next month, by the end of next month. Mm-hmm. And then once the lyric video is out there, I'm putting together the rest of the full album release package, and we'll get that over to our record label and get that underway to be released. It's either going to be probably October or November, but that late in the year, we're probably just going to wait until January to release the album. That way we got a new year marked on it.
Yeah.
And that way we get a full New Year's worth of mileage on it before it becomes last year's album, right? So we're probably just going to wait till January to put out the full-length album. And as soon as we do that, the main concentration for live shows will probably be, we'll probably actually have a couple old-fashioned open houses here at our studio. Mm-hmm. We got a stage that's 35 foot long by 15 foot deep, and I got drum risers, and we got all of our stuff set up. So we get to put on kind of like the full Seasons of the Wolf show right here on our own home turf. And I can bring in special invites to people that are around the local area, and I can bring in about 120 people right here at our studio and do a performance. So we'll probably do a couple of those, and then we'll probably play Brass Mug up in Tampa, which is popular with a lot of bands, just to get out and have a little fun on a lower scale. And then we'll probably play the State Theater, and that will be the only local stuff we do. After that, our main concentration for next year is going to be festivals in Europe. For instance, Headbangers Open Air Festival. They've been wanting to get us over there for a lot of years, and we damn sure want to go. There's just a lot of cool hard rock and metal festivals over in Europe. And they actually work hard to take care of the bands and make sure that at least the expenses are paid to get them over. And then it's up to you to take your merchandise and sell and maybe make a little money while you're there. But it's so different over there in the way you're treated and the way they put the whole thing together. In the U.S., we still have a big problem with this pay-to-play crap. These festivals over here, I've been approached before, hey, we'd like to have you at our festival, Milwaukee Metal Fest. Okay, those guys hate me, by the way, because I actually put out the word in the local newspapers and articles they wrote and everything, because they're pulling in bands they actually, okay, we'd love to have you, but it's going to cost you $1,200.
Jesus.
And I'm like, what? $1,200 for what?
Yeah, that is
to pack all of our equipment up and drive all the way up to Milwaukee? And play for only 20 or 30 minutes on stage, and it's not even on the main stage. You want to? What the hell are you talking about, man? There's no way I'm ever going to pay to go play somewhere.
Yeah, it is ridiculous, especially $1,200. That is.
I will never pay to play anywhere. I will take the band out, and we'll do our show, and we'll play for free as long as we can do our merchandise. What I mean for free is, if you want us to come all the way to Milwaukee and play a show, then you need to pay the expenses to get us there.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we're taking of our pockets, and we don't have that kind of money. We're here to, we've been around a while. We just aren't going to do it, man. But the thing of it is, there for a long time, and they're still doing it now to this day, a lot of these bigger festivals here in the U.S., they are actually charging a lot of these young, naive bands, oh, you're going to get to play in front of like 5,000 or 6,000 people or 10,000 people, and like a young band's going to get all excited about it. So it's worth it for you guys to spend the $1,200 to get on stage for 20 minutes here. You're going to get a lot of promotion out of it. I tell you what, that's a lot of horse shit's what it is.
No, yeah, definitely.
And and a lot of those bands that I know did that, they would come back to me later basically crying about it. Because, man, we lost money, and we only played on the second stage for 20 minutes, and most of the people were over at the main stage and didn't even come on over to see us play, and so it was basically just a bunch of bullshit, and it cost us $1,200. And I'm like, well, I told you so.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
You're excited. You're a bunch of young puppies. You want to get out there in front of and believe all this crap that these promoters, all they want is your money. So they're going to take, if they got a 3-day festival going on, the only artists that are getting paid are the two headliners, the two bigger name headliners of each day that are drawing most of the people into the show. Then you get a dozen other bands throughout the day that are smaller bands that haven't even played on stage for the first time, all paying to play that stage.
Yeah.
And that's what pays the headliners. So the headliners that play those things, I know there's a lot of them out there, and a lot of them I like those bands, but I can tell you one thing, I disapprove. I disapprove you are screwing all these new young bands out of money so that you can get played as a headliner. Shame on you, you piece of freaking crap.
I can definitely agree with that, 110%.
And that has gone on. I mean, I love Ozzy, but Sharon can kiss my ass. Okay? Because the whole Ozfest thing was like that. Most of the bands, some of them even on labels, had to pay thousands of dollars to play that show. And Sharon, she's the one that put all that in order. Along with Clear Channel Communications, corporate radio bullshit, and everything they're involved with. It got to the point where they got so big, they got greedy.
Yep.
And greed is what kills everything.
Yep, I can definitely agree with that statement. Greed is a big killer to everything. Not even just music, just everything in life.
Right.
Alrighty. So, next question I have for you is...
I went off on a rant, sorry.
No, that's completely fine. I like when people ramble.
You got me riled up.
I like the rambling. I appreciate it. Alrighty. So, the next song I have for you is... You guys work with other bands, right? For like promotional and album design and music mixing and stuff like that?
We have. We haven't done much of that recently, but over the last 20 years running the rehearsal studio here, bands call me up, they need a place to practice, and I'll offer an affordable place to practice, and then I get to meet them, and I get to hear their stuff, and I go, wow, you guys are pretty good, and if it's an original band, I usually try to help them out all I can. I'll take photos, I'll help them put together a promo pack, do videos, they can bring in smoke machines and whatever, and, just put together the best professional package we can, and help them along their way. And of course, the radio is the same thing with all my connections with certain people. If their stuff comes out really good and whatever, I can give them a list. I don't ever do all the work for them though. I don't mind sharing and providing them, and helping them get to a certain point. But at a certain point, when I hand them a couple of pieces of paper with a list on it of radio stations and people to send their stuff to, and I go, now it's up to you to take this and do something with it.
Yeah.
If you do not have the motivation to do something with it, it ain't never going to happen for you, man.
Exactly, yeah. You have to dedicate your time and your passion into, especially trying to grow your music, get your music out there, because, people can't just do everything for you. That's another thing that's just life, right? Like, you can always come to people for help for a bunch of different things, but in the end, ultimately, it's yourself who has to figure everything out,
Right. Well, they do. I mean, it's good to help. I get a good feeling out of helping bands accomplish a few steps up the ladder, as far as recording and producing and taking cool photos and maybe a little suggestion on like, okay, maybe you may not want to have your girlfriend come and do your photo session for you. Maybe you want somebody with a little more experience with a really nice camera, and maybe you want to get together and take a look at yourselves as a group in the mirror and, you know, buy some cool threads or something and come up with a look for your band, and then go pick out some cool places besides standing on a railroad track. DJ Fisk would get a laugh out of that one. the old standing on the railroad track photo or whatever. You know, be creative and put together an image that when people look like right off the bat and they haven't even heard your music yet, they look at the band and goes, wow, those guys look really sharp and kind of cool and mysterious. I want to hear their shit.
Yeah.
That's part of the whole thing. And a lot of bands don't understand this. It's not just the music. You know, it does have to do a little bit with putting some time and effort into a few other things. I mean, if you want to look like slobs, that's fine too. That can work. It's just the whole band needs to look like slobs at the same time.
Yeah.
And then everybody that's into that type of thing, like the grunge scene that came out and Nirvana and all that, can wear open flannel T-shirts with, you know, with their chest hairs sticking out and looking like they just did, you know, a few lines of coke or whatever, and stand there with snot dripping out of their nose. That's the look for the band, and it sells. But make it a uniform look. If you're going to go that way, at least do that. You know, if you all want to dress in leather jackets and you know, it's a lot of bands I work with come in not understanding or accepting to understand that it is the entertainment business, and you look like and sound like you want to be successful to a certain extent, then you really need to get along with each other and come to some agreements on what to do with your band as far as visually and sonically, album cover, everything. It's all got to make sense.
Yeah.
To a certain crowd, a certain niche group that you're trying to reach.
Yeah, I can agree with that. You got to make yourself stand out from everybody else as well. Like, you can't just jump on and just walk there with like a t-shirt and shorts on, take a picture of yourself, and expect people to be like, okay, who are these guys? These guys look so interesting. Because no, I mean, you're just basic.
I do see a lot of that, and that's nice. You know, your local pubs or whatever with cover bands or even some original bands. It's all shorts down to their knees with a pair of sandals on and just a t-shirt, a band t-shirt. And hey, it's cool, man. If everybody in the band looks like that and that's the image you're wanting to go for, fine. But a lot of times, it's like so mixed matched. I'll see one guy with leather pants on and a leather jacket and spikes, and then the other guy's got a pair of shorts on, you know, camouflage shorts with a beard, and then another person in the back is like don't even have a shirt on at all, wearing a pair of white pants with pink tennis shoes, and they all don't even look like the music they're playing. None of them look like they should be playing the music they're playing. It just doesn't make any sense. It's like scrambled eggs.
Yeah. Alrighty. So, next question I have for you, it's a bit of like a personal question from me. Big shot in the dark for this one. Would you guys care to send any type of memorabilia or merchandise from your band my way? I would be loving to promote the band outside of the radio station.
Hell yeah. We've done it all the time. We've been doing that for over 30 years, man.
Awesome. Yeah.
I mean, there was a particular point in time back in the MySpace days. Remember MySpace?
Vaguely, yeah.
Right, and then there was Facebook. There was MySpace first, and then they trashed that thing after a while. It was good for a couple of years. Mm. When MySpace first came along, those first couple of years was a really good promotional tool for bands. So I contacted as many people as I could out there and got them on our mailing list, actual physical mail. And I'd draw them in, and then what we did is we actually worked up a couple of $1,000, and we put together these little promo CDs that only had 4 songs on it. One song from each of the albums we had out at the time. We picked the best track or the most popular track off of each album, and we put it on that little 4-song compilation disc, and we sent it out for free to everyone we found off of Facebook, or no, MySpace at the time. And so basically we paid $2,500 to mail out for free to all those people. But guess what? It worked.
Yeah.
It worked really good because a lot of those people bought our full-length albums. All those people that we sent that disc to for free went out and started buying all of got like our whole back catalog and the new CD, and then they're buying T-shirts and stuff like that. So, and there are like street teams. That's kind of vague nowadays too, putting together a street team, but we used to have street team members, like special people that were on our fan list that were like the extreme fans. We'd actually put together boxes of 100 CDs and send them.
Oh, man.
We had like 10 people on our list, one in Los Angeles, one in New York. I'd spread it out. I'd pick a person off our list all over the United States and the bigger cities, and I'd send them for free a box of 100 CDs. And all I asked for them is go out to your local shows and stand there and pass them out to anybody for free.
Yeah, it's awesome, and it seems like it worked too.
Yeah, that kind of stuff does. It's grassroots marketing, guerrilla marketing, whatever you want to call it. That's, you got to put some money into it, though. I'm not saying pay to get airplay, and I'm not saying pay to perform. But when it comes to merchandise and marketing, you handle what you're going to get out of it. If you put the money into it and send stuff out there to people that like your music already, they're going to become promoters, and you will get a return from that.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, any merchandise for me does well. It could be a shirt, it could be a CD, it could be a poster, it could just be a signed coffee mug. I just like, for one, I really love collecting merchandise, especially from bands, and for two, I would just love to promote the band outside of the station. I've actually sent a few of my friends your music, and it's in all of their playlists now. They all love Seasons of the Wolf, so.
Well, that's great, man. I mean, yeah, after we get done, man, shoot me over your address. I'll send you up a couple of Last Act Appliance CDs and an autograph poster and some whatnot, man. I've got a list right now. I get, people all the time that are doing stuff, especially in radio. If all the DJs, we did a radio marketing campaign back in 1998. It was our first big radio marketing campaign. I actually hired this company out of New Jersey, and they sent our stuff out to 500 college radio stations, and we actually got in the top 10 at a lot of those stations. Well, any of those stations that had us in the top 10 and was doing on-air radio interviews, such as we're doing right now on the phone, they'd call me up and we'd do an interview. I would always make sure, like, it's just like a major label would do. If somebody is if a radio station is playing your music, you want to send them what's called an incentive package. Basically, all that is if I've got a DJ that's playing my stuff and people are calling in and getting turned on to our music, I want to send that guy a T-shirt. Yeah. I want to send that guy an autographed poster to hang up in his studio, and an extra copy of the CD to give away to somebody free on air if they're listening to the show. Today, if you call in and say such and such a thing, or if you come into the chat room and say if you're the first one that comes in, you will win a free Seasons of the Wolf T-shirt or CD.
Yeah. This
is all good stuff, man.
Yeah, I mean, and I appreciate that. You're gonna send me something. I really appreciate that. I was a little nervous to ask that question too, but
Hey, right now we haven't gotten any new T-shirts made up, but it is in my game plan right now. Sometime before we release the album, We actually got like 5 different T-shirt designs. We're just all sold out of the old stuff right now, and I got a couple of new design ideas. So we're basically working on that, stocking up our merchandise and getting all of our cannons loaded and ready to be fired. But the thing of it is, it does cost money. So it's taken us a little bit to put together a bunch of merchandise again. But right now, I've got a list of probably at least 50 radio programs that's been playing us, such as CBR, Castle Blakk Radio, and the DJs, that once we get rolling with this, I'm going to be sending out T-shirts to everybody.
I appreciate that, man.
That's what's coming up in the near future. As soon as we get those T-shirts here and I get everybody's T-shirt sizes, everybody that has supported us and played us, we're going to give something back,
Yeah, it's awesome. Alrighty.
And that's what, in the major record labels, the executive wearing the suits or whatever they wear, but they came up with the saying, that kind of thing is called an incentive package.
Mm-hmm.
I disagree with that. I'm just giving somebody a gift for helping us out because they've been doing so much for us, and we want to make sure we return it. But in the name of a major record label, an incentive package means if they've got you in the top 10 and you're doing an interview, we're going to send them an incentive package. Basically, it means it's going to give them the incentive to keep playing your stuff.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense, but I mean, if I got anything or I didn't, I'm going to keep playing Seasons of the Wolf because I genuinely enjoy the music, and just to also help out and promote is just, it's the least I can do,
And I'm one of those guys that's been around for so long, and I know just a little too much about the major record business that I kind of want to round them all up and beat them with Negan's baseball bat,
Yeah. Oh, man. Alrighty, so I only have one more question today. I did have 20 questions, but you answered a lot of my questions that I had, so I just got rid of a couple. So,
right.
The last question I have for you is, I believe you told me back in the day you were sleeping at the warehouse or studio. And
I've spent quite a bit of my life here.
And you told me that a place next door to you caught on fire. Tell me about that experience of yours. I'm curious to hear more insight.
Oh, yeah, man, that was back in '93. A couple of propane tanks. Somebody left a forklift in the back of the place, plugged into a battery charger inside of a paint room, and they shut it up. And when the damn thing reached its full charge, they forgot to unplug it, and they left it there all night, and it sparked, and the paint fumes in that room basically exploded the whole back end of the damn thing.
Oh, damn.
And it caught the whole place on fire. We were lucky because, number one, I was here, and I was able to call the fire department right away. And number two, the wind was blowing the other direction. So most of the flames were blowing towards the other warehouse on the other side. We had 4 fire trucks here, and they were hosing our place down, just so it wouldn't catch on fire. And then the other warehouse on the other side was almost catching on fire because the wind was blowing their way, but they got here in time to take care of that. They just left the other place just burned to the ground, though. It was already toast. They even had a couple of propane tanks that exploded and shot across the parking lot. I was losing my mind, man. I was assholes and elbows running up and down the parking lot with my guitars. I was going back to the warehouse and grabbing everything I could out of it and running down the parking lot and throwing them inside this van.
Yeah, I mean, shoot, man.
I sat there when the fire department they chased me out, and they said, you can't go back there anymore. I'm sitting in that van until the damn sun came up, practically crying like a baby, thinking my place was going to go down and all the equipment we had was going to go up in flames.
I mean, good thing it did not. I'm very happy that did not happen. I'm sure you are just as well, but Yeah.
That was a big one, man. And since then, over the years, 2 more warehouses have burnt down, and I've been here, and I've been the guy that called the fire department.
Yeah, I mean...
We'd be in the recording studio recording. Ever since that went down, I have a keen, sense of smell to fire, because I was so freaked out and alarmed by that particular fire. Anytime I smell a fire, I know it right away. Something's burning somewhere, and I'm on that shit.
Yeah, I mean, that's good. Yeah, I would definitely expect that to happen because, that's a scary situation. That's traumatic, and, it definitely raises... Well, I can't think of the right word to put into the sentence, but it definitely raises the, I don't know, I can't find the word.
There probably isn't a word for it. There's maybe about a dozen words for it.
Yeah.
Everybody reacts different, but I got to tell you, it was definitely one of those experiences that make your hair stand up on your arms and makes your heart sink down to the bottom of your asshole.
Oh, yeah, definitely. All right, well, that's all the questions I got for you today.
All right, man.
Thank you, Skully, for taking the time out of your day.
Well, I hope some people were tuned in and actually got to hear some of our BS.
Yeah, I mean, we had a good amount here, and then what's also great too is I have this whole thing recorded, so it's gonna be going up on YouTube 12 a.m. tonight. So if anybody missed it, I can always link it to them there.
Sounds good, man.
All right, man. Well, thank you for the
All right, let's hear some more tunes, man. I'm sure people are out there saying, hey, let's hear some more tunes.
Yeah. All right, man. You take it easy.
All right, man. I'll see you in the chat room.
All right. Later.